Hey guys, I'm JC and today we're playing Kodama and Ishai. This is a blink deck that looks to abuse Kodama's powerful ETB ability and overwhelm its opponents with value. If this seems like your kind of deck, then make sure to stop by the channel where we have a deck tech as well as other gameplay videos showing how the deck was built as well as how it plays out. Let's see if this unknown blink deck can earn the respect of its opponents. Okay guys, let's see who we're playing today. We have Squee the Immortal, we have Karametra God of Harvests, and we have Krenko Mob Boss. Alright, let's take a look at our opening hand. It's a very strong keep here. We have 3 lands, we have turn 2 ramp, we have turn 3 ramp, we have card draw and a very strong interactive piece. There's really not much more you could ask for, so let's keep this. Krenko starts the game by playing a mountain for turn, and they pass to us. We draw a Field of the Dead for turn. Well, because that is a tap land, let's play that right now, and then we'll pass it over. Squee plays a land, but that is it for them. Karametra plays their land for turn, and that's going to be it for them. Krenko plays a land. Now they cast a Bloodmark Mentor. Red creatures you control have first strike. That's going to be it for the Krenko player. We draw a Venser for turn. Well, let's start by playing our Forest, and then we'll cast our Sakura Tribe Elder. And from here we'll pass it to the Squee player. Squee plays a land. Now they cast a Cold Steel Heart. Then they pass it over. Karametra plays a land. But it looks like that's it for them. Krenko plays their land for turn. Now they start by casting a Skirk Prospector. You can sacrifice a Goblin to add red mana. Now they move to combat. They decide to pass through combat. Now they move to their end step. We're going to sacrifice our Sakura Tribe Elder. We'll find ourselves a Snow-Covered Forest. And then we'll go to our turn. We draw Selvala, Heart of the Wilds for turn. So we'll start by playing our Brushland. Now this turn we have the choice of ramp or card draw. We can cast our Guardian Project and set ourselves up to draw cards by playing Somberwald Sage, Selvala and Venser if we absolutely have to against the Krenko player. Of course we could also just get Somberwald Sage down here and that sets us up to get down Kodama next turn. Either choice seems viable with the current setup on the board at the moment. I think I'll actually go the card draw route here, so let's cast our Guardian Project. From here we'll pass the turn. Squee plays a land. And now they cast a Hero's Blade. Equipped creature gets +3/+2. Whenever a legendary creature ETB is under your control, you may attach Hero's Blade to it. And that is going to be it for them. Karametra plays a land. Now they cast a Tireless Provisioner. It has landfall. Whenever a land ETB is under your control, create a food token or a treasure token. And then they pass it to the Krenko player. Krenko starts by playing a land for turn. And now they cast their commander, Krenko Mob Boss. You can tap it to create X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, where X is the number of goblins you control. Now they move to combat. Let's see if they attack anyone this time. It looks like they don't. And then they pass it to us. We draw a Yorion for turn. Well, let's start by playing our island for turn. Next, we'll cast our Somberwald Sage. When that ETBs, that's going to draw us a card. We get ourselves a Tashana. And then we'll have to pass the turn from here. Squee plays a land for turn. Now they cast their commander, Squee the Immortal. You may cast Squee the Immortal from your graveyard or from exile. When that ETBs, Hero's Blade will attach to Squee. So now it's currently a 5/3. And that is going to be it for their turn. Karametra starts by playing a Fabled Passage for turn. That does trigger their Tireless Provisioner. They opt to make a treasure token. Now they sack the Fabled Passage straight away. They put a Plains into play, that triggers their Provisioner once again. And they make another treasure. Now they cast their commander, Karametra God of Harvests. It has indestructible. As long as your devotion to green and white is less than 7, it isn't a creature. And whenever you cast a creature spell, you may search your library for a forest or plains card, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle. Now they move to combat, but they decide to pass straight through combat, and that is it for their turn. Okay, well the Krenko player is untapping with their commander here, which is quite dangerous, especially with that Skirk Prospector on the board. Now they do play a land for turn. Now they cast a Sensation Gorger. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top card of your library. If it shares a creature type with Sensation Gorger, you may reveal it. If you do, each player discards their hand, then draws 4 cards. Okay, well that might not be a bad creature for us once we actually start dumping our hand out. Now Krenko does activate their commander, making 4 goblin tokens. After that, they move to combat. They decide to pass straight through combat. And that is going to be it for them. Okay, we draw a land for turn. So let's start by casting our commander, Kodama. That's going to trigger Guardian Project. We draw ourselves a land. Well, that's really good. Next, let's play our land for turn. That triggers Kodama. We'll put our island into play. And from here, I think we'll actually keep our 4 mana held up. We'll keep Venser up, and just before it gets to the Goblin player's turn, we'll actually bounce Krenko before they make a massive Goblin army that's probably going to be something too hard for us to handle. So let's just pass the turn from here. Squee starts by playing a land. Next, they cast a Reaver Cleaver. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, create that many treasure tokens. Now they move to equip the Cleaver to their commander. So that does make it a 6/4 now. I don't think it's likely that they come our way. And they go towards Karametra. Karametra just decides to take the damage. Now that triggers the Cleaver. They're going to make 6 treasure tokens. Looks like they're using that mana right away. In fact, they use all of it, and now they cast a Coveted Jewel. When it ETBs draw 3, it taps to add 3 mana of any one color. And whenever one or more creatures an opponent controls attack you and aren't blocked, that player draws 3 cards and gains control of Coveted Jewel, untap it. And then after that, they cast a Loxodon Warhammer. A quick creature gets +3/+0 and has trample and lifelink. And that is it for their turn. Karametra starts by casting a Welcoming Vampire. That triggers their commander, so they'll be able to search for a land. Welcoming Vampire has flying, and whenever one or more other creatures with power 2 or less ETB under your control draw a card, this ability triggers only once each turn. They put that land onto the battlefield tapped. Next, they cast a White Mane Lion. That triggers their commander. It has flash, and whenever it ETBs, return a creature you control to its owner's hand. Quite a dangerous card in a Karametra deck. That's going to be able to help them ramp a lot. That does also trigger Tireless Provisioner, making a treasure token. Now when the Lion ETBs, that will trigger the Welcoming Vampire. The Lion bounces itself. And now they recast it once again, which does trigger their commander. A land comes into play tap, that triggers Tireless Provisioner. They'll make another treasure token. And I'd say the White Mane Lion's going to bounce itself again, which it does. Now they move to combat. They actually decide to pass through combat. That's quite interesting. I thought they would have stolen the Coveted Jewel there. Oh, and I accidentally moved to... I was talking too much there, and unfortunately we actually passed through the end step of the Karametra player. So now, unfortunately, even if I try to bounce Krenko, they can just activate it in response. Their Sensation Gorger does trigger. Now they cast a Torbran, Thane of Red Fell. If a red source you control will deal damage to an opponent or a permanent opponent controls, it deals that much damage +2 instead. Well, that's going to make those 1/1s a lot more potent. Next, they activate their commander, making X 1/1 Goblin tokens, and that's going to be quite a lot now. We're just fortunate they don't have haste at the moment. Now they move to combat. Let's see where they swing before we actually react with our Venser. So we have quite a few Goblins actually going towards the Squee player there. And it looks like that's all they're sending at the moment, about 5 of them. We'll let that happen. Because they aren't blocked, that triggers Coveted Jewel. So now the Squee player draws 3 cards and they get access to 3 extra mana. That knocks Squee down to 28. After that, they cast a Sol Ring. And then they cast a Hellrider. It has haste, and whenever a creature you control attacks, Hellrider deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. So the Krenko player is almost set up to take out 1 to 2 players here, maybe even 3, if they do get into some sort of haste effect. Now they cast a Goblin King. Other goblins get +1/+1 and have Mountain Walk. Well, good news for us in Karametra, not so much for the Squee player with that one. Now they move to their end step. We're going to cast our Venser here. We'll put the Kodama trigger on the bottom. Venser can target Krenko. We'll also draw a card from Guardian Project. We need our draws to be really good here. We just get ourselves a Mystic Gate. Venser bounces Krenko. We're going to cheat Selvala into play, because she's going to be able to tap for 6 mana thanks to Kodama. When she ETBs, that's also going to trigger Guardian Project. And we get ourselves another land. And let's go to our turn and see if we can find an answer to the Krenko player. We get ourselves a Sludge Monster. Okay, well that is actually quite a good answer to some of the problematic creatures like Torbran and that Hellrider. So I think we can actually get quite a lot done this turn, especially with Yorion in hand. So let's start by casting Tishana. That'll allow us to draw quite a few cards here and give us more options. Ooh, and we get a Panharmonicon there, a Glasspool Mimic. That's going to be really good, especially with our Sludge Monster or Illuminate. We get a few lands there as well, and we get ourselves a Thorn Mammoth. Okay, we're drawing exactly what we need here. Selvala also draws us a card. We get ourselves a land. Alright, so with our Kodama trigger, I'm actually going to cheat into play our Prime Speaker Zagana. That's going to draw us a bunch more cards. Alright, so we drew quite a few cards there. Also hit Avenger of Zendikar, that's going to be quite dangerous. Next, let's play our land for turn, one of our fetch lands. That's going to trigger Field of the Dead. It's now online as well as Kodama. So let's start going wider than the Krenko player. our zombie ETBs, that triggers Kodama. We'll put another land into play. And we can essentially keep going through this cycle until we play out all the lands in our hand. And notably, they do come into play untapped. So let's do that until we put all our lands into play. And that's what our board state looks like now with all our lands into play. We made 7 zombies in total. Next, let's activate Selvala. We're going to be able to make a total of 17 mana here. Let's use some of it to get down our Panharmonicon first so we can start doubling all our triggers. That's going to trigger Kodama twice. So we'll start by putting Soul Herder into play first. That's going to trigger Guardian Project twice. We draw a land and another land. We'll put our Smothering Tithe into play. Next, we'll cast our Thorn Mammoth. We put a bunch more triggers onto the stack. We'll start by fighting the Skirk Prospector first. And then we'll also fight Torbran. Now we'll draw 2 cards. Now we're going to cheat our Sludge Monster into play. That puts even more triggers on the stack. We'll target the Hell Rider for the first trigger. And a Tireless Tracker for the second. We draw an Elvish Piper, as well as another land. Now we'll put our Luminate Primordial into play. We go through the trigger dance once again. The first Luminate trigger can target Squee, Welcoming Vampire, and the Goblin King. Second Luminate trigger can target the Tireless Tracker, as well as the Hell Rider. When they get exiled, that does trigger Soul Herder, so it'll get 1/1 counters. And that causes the Goblin player to scoop it up. So now we only have 2 opponents left, and maybe not for long after all the value we're generating. It can be hard, but when Kodama goes off like this, it really goes off. We draw a land, as well as an Agent of Treachery. Well, that might actually close it out now. So let's try that now, but we will have to crack some of our fetch lands first. We'll put a Breeding Pool into play untap, we'll lose 2 life. That will trigger Kodama and Field of the Dead. So we'll make another zombie. Now when the zombie ETBs, that's going to trigger Kodama twice. We'll put a land into play. That triggers Field of the Dead. And the zombies allow us to put more lands into play. Honestly, at this point, it's just pure insanity how much Kodama can actually do here in a Blink deck. When the land ETBs, that triggers Field of the Dead. We make another zombie. We do it all again. We'll put our Castle Garenbrig into play. I think we might stop it here because I don't think we need to put any more lands into play. I think we've done pretty much everything we need to. And now let's cast our Agent of Treachery. A bunch of triggers go on the stack. As always, we put Kodama at the bottom. And that causes another one of our opponents to scoop it up. So I think the game's going to be pretty much over here. So with the first trigger, we'll target Karametra. With the second, we'll just target one of their lands. We're just going to pass on our triggers here. Now we'll move to combat. We'll swing with everything we can. That knocks Karametra down to 30. And from here, we'll just pass the turn. And we'll have to go down to discard. Now on our end step, Soul Herder does trigger. We'll target our Agent of Treachery. That will put a bunch of triggers back on the stack. And importantly now, if our opponent did have something like a Farewell, by stealing their lands, we can actually stop them from casting it. So we should have the game pretty much in the bag here. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm actually incorrect. They do have 5 mana, so if they play a land next turn, they certainly can cast Farewell. But at this point, with all the cards we have in our hand and the massive amount of lands we also have access to, I just can't really see how our opponent's going to come back from this. So we're going to decline our 2 Kodama triggers. Now we pass it to Karametra. Smothering Tithe triggers on their draw step. They give us a treasure that triggers Kodama twice. We'll pass on those triggers. It looks like the Karametra player is just passing the turn here. Alright, well on their end step, what we're actually going to do is we're going to use our Ephemerate onto our Agent of Treachery. Just in case they have anything tricky planned for us. That does resolve. So let's take both of their white sources. Draw some more cards. We're not going to cheat anything into play. I think our opponents have been through more than enough. Especially this player for actually sticking it out. I do appreciate it. So let's go to our turn and get the job done. Right on our upkeep, Ephemerate does trigger. We are able to recast it again. I'm not going to opt to do that. I think we're just going to move straight to combat here. Let's swing in with all of our zombies, as well as 2 of our big beaters. And that is the game done there, guys. Alright, let's go to the review and discuss what happened. Well, that game was something else. If you ever wanted to see the full non-infinite potential of this deck, then this game right here was it. But there were a few cards that allowed this perfect storm to happen. First of all, Tishana allowed us to draw a large amount of cards which not only refilled our hand, but allowed us to draw into more lands which we could later cheat into play. This was important because our second card, Field of the Dead, showed its full potential by allowing us to cheat all the lands we had into play from hand by just having 1 land ETB. Finally, Somberwald Sage and Selvala gave us access to all the mana we could want to start and continue the chain, especially that combination of Selvala with Tishana, which gave us access to 17 total mana. Well, that's it from me today. As of recording, Kodama and Ishai currently has less than 400 decks according to EDH Rec, so if you've been looking to play a Blink deck that's unique yet powerful, this may be the one to try. Until next time, guys.